unification fights out there for you. There's also Terence Crawford, who Eddie Hearn says he wants to make that fight if Crawford wins on August 3rd. What's your preference?
Most definitely, let's make it happen, you know. That's what I want. You know, I want the big names. You know, Terence Crawford. Anybody else in that weight that got a big name, let's get it.
Jaron "Boots" Ennis has reportedly ran up on Terence "Bud" Crawford as he confronted him about fighting. This Saturday, Ennis successfully defended his IBF welterweight title by way of TKO over David Avanesyan. After Ennis stopped Avanesyan in the 5th round, the fighter appeared exhausted and turned to face the corner. On the recommendation of the ringside doctor, the referee broke up the fight before the 6th round began. Ennis said, "I knew I was too strong for him. I should have listened to my corner a little more, jabbed a little more, got to that body a little more angles. It's okay." Ennis improved to 32-0 and cemented his place among boxing's brightest growing talents with his maiden title defense. 29 of his fights have ended in knockouts for him. After a year-long hiatus, Philadelphia native Ennis was back in the ring in front of his hometown crowd of roughly 14,000 fans. He said, "I did feel a little off. That's okay. I did get the job done." Fighting and winning in his hometown felt phenomenal, he said. Ennis stated that he would be interested in competing against Terence Crawford, even if it meant increasing his weight from his present position of 147 pounds to 154 pounds. "I want the big names," he said. This match was Avanesyan's final attempt at winning a world championship. He dropped to May 1st 30. Ennis burst out of the gate with rapid jabs, keeping Avanesyan on the defensive. Despite Avanesyan sneaking in a right hook, Ennis maintained early dominance, working the body and deftly evading counterattacks. Avanesyan's momentum was abruptly halted by a low blow, a stinging right uppercut, sending him to the canvas in intense pain. With 5 minutes to recover, the crowd grew restless with anticipation. As the fight resumed, Ennis continued his relentless assault. Scorecard reads, Ennis 10, Avanesyan 9. Ennis is unloading, but Avanesyan is retaliating now. Avanesyan is currently stalking his target and throwing a range of blows. Outstanding conversations. Avanesyan 18, Ennis 20. Ennis asserts his dominance with impressive power and volume, yet Avanesyan proves resilient, refusing to yield. As Ennis intensifies his assault, he refuses to relent, engaging fiercely from the ropes, exchanging powerful uppercuts amidst Avanesyan's determined resistance. Ennis, 30, Avanesyan, 27, showcasing a battle of resilience and determination in the ring.
Good performance, you know, good comeback fight. I ain't fighting a year, so felt good to be back in the ring, felt good to be home, you know. The crowd was loving it. No, I'm glad to be back.
Ennis maintains his composure despite Avanesyan's relentless pursuit. He flaunts his extensive skill set, punishing Avanesyan's body with precision. Avanesyan attempts punches but struggles to land clean hits. Ennis adds a touch of showmanship to the bout. Scores: Ennis 40, Avanesyan 36. Ennis swings wide with a powerful right but loses balance, tumbling to the canvas. Avanesyan celebrates briefly as Ennis drops to one knee. Avanesyan counters with a thunderous uppercut, only to find himself momentarily off balance. It's a slippery exchange in the ring. Avanesyan presses forward, determined to shift the momentum. Suddenly, Avanesyan goes down. He lands a solid punch but takes an even bigger one in return. Yet, he rises swiftly, and the furious exchange continues. Ennis unleashes a barrage. Miraculously, Avanesyan remains upright. Ennis leads with 50, Avanesyan close behind with 44. The conflict has ended. Based on recommendations from the ringside doctor, the referee declared the bout. Ennis triumphs via TKO.
Yeah, it was dope. You know, it was a great experience coming out to walking out in front of my friends and family, supporters at this big arena. You know, it was a blessing. You know, I was taking it all in.
Now, the clamor builds for a showdown between these two conquerors of Ava. Could Ennis outshine Crawford? His emphatic victory has even caught the eye of His Excellency Turkey Alalshikh, who eagerly anticipates Ennis facing Crawford in the light middleweight division. But Oscar de la Hoya has his doubts, predicting Ennis might not only face defeat at the hands of the Nebraskan southpaw, but also from the formidable Virgil Ortiz Jr. Ennis faced his inaugural title defense, seizing the IBF championship after Crawford's departure. Crawford, now eyeing the light middleweight division, aims to pave a path towards a coveted showdown with Canelo Alvarez. Scheduled for August 3rd at the Riyadh season card in Los Angeles, Crawford will confront WBA champion Israel Madrimov. Meanwhile, Virgil Ortiz Jr., initially set to clash with Tim Tszyu on the same day, saw their bout canceled. Instead, Ortiz Jr. gears up to battle WBC's interim light middleweight champion Serhiy Bohachuk on August 10th in Las Vegas. His Excellency Turkey Alalshikh took to Twitter to personally congratulate Jaron Ennis and Eddie Hearn of Match Matchroom Boxing following their victorious bout against David Avanesyan. Then he said, "I'd love to see Ennis in a fight with Crawford at weight 154 soon." Oscar De La Hoya doesn't seem convinced that Jaron Ennis has a shot. He firmly believes that fighters like Bud Crawford or Virgil Ortiz Jr. would easily outmatch the Philadelphian. Curiously, his opinion sparked a swift response from His Excellency Alalshikh, who simply remarked, "Let's wait and see." In recent times, the boxing world eagerly anticipated the clash between Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis. Despite sharing the same weight class, their paths never quite converged in the ring. Crawford, as the reigning champion, faced mandatory defenses, including a potential bout with Ennis, the interim IBF title holder. However, contractual commitments, particularly a rematch clause with Errol Spence Jr., posed significant obstacles to making this highly anticipated matchup a reality. IBF, unable to move forward, ultimately chose to strip him of their belt, shifting him from unified champion to a once undisputed title holder. Subsequently, with no Spence Jr. rematch in sight, Crawford opted to venture into a higher division. Speculation swirls that this move positions him closer to his ultimate goal, a showdown with Canelo Alvarez. Eddie Hearn holds onto optimism that a showdown between Jaron Ennis and Terence Crawford could materialize. Addressing the media after the fight, he disclosed a FaceTime discussion with His Excellency Turki Alalshikh. Apparently, Boot mentioned to the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority his readiness to forward the Crawford fight contract. Hearn is optimistic that after Crawford overcomes the Madrimov challenge, there might be an opportunity for a showdown with Ennis. The British promoter doesn't seem confident about a Canelo Alvarez versus Crawford bout in the near future. Therefore, a match against Boots Ennis could realistically happen by early 2025.
So much. I'm gonna keep putting on beautiful shows. Next fight I'm gonna be even better. Just keep tuning in, keep coming to support me. I'm gonna keep bringing them knockouts home.
Although the outcome of Jaron Ennis stopping David Avanesyan in under 5 rounds underscored Ennis's superiority, the bout between them was far from unnecessary or futile. Instead of being just another bout, this fight turned out to be precisely what Jaron Ennis needed at this point in his professional journey, for several compelling reasons. Firstly, it granted him the opportunity to headline an event in his hometown of Philadelphia, evoking memories of a time when local fighters drew substantial crowds to their bouts. Secondly, despite his burgeoning reputation, Ennis is still in the process of forging both his career and his public image. And thirdly, Avanesyan, while not quite on Ennis's level, proved to be a brave and active opponent who pushed Ennis to showcase his best skills and ignite excitement among fans. Ennis's 5th-round stoppage of Avanesyan checked more boxes than it left unchecked, retaining his IBF welterweight title and extending his unbeaten record to 32-0. Ennis displayed both dominance and composure. His impressive victory not only solidified his status, but also positioned him prominently for a potential showdown with Terence "Bud" Crawford, possibly later this year. As Crawford prepares for his bout against WBA super welterweight champion Israil Madrimov on August 3rd, Ennis's fearless performance keeps him firmly in contention. Ennis said during his post-fight interview, "Terence Crawford and anybody else that's a big name can get it. Currently, there's a prevailing notion that the backers of Crawford versus Ennis are more eager for the bout than the fighters themselves who will ultimately step into the ring." Eddie Hearn, Ennis's new promoter, appears particularly enthusiastic, while Turki Alalshikh, handling much of the financial and promotional efforts in the Middle East, is evidently excited about the prospect of Crawford and Ennis facing off in the ring. In today's boxing scene, one undeniable truth reigns. Turki Alalshikh gets what he wants. Whether it's the sensation of a promoter's reassuring handshake or fighters setting aside their egos to settle scores in the ring, his influence shapes the landscape for better or worse.
And if he thinks that performance was off, well, the world of boxing better be very, very afraid. Because that was Boots Ennis, 1 year out, dismantling a world-class fighter with ease in there, having fun, doing what he does. And the future for Boots Ennis is the future of boxing. That's what this young man is. He's very humble. You never hear him say too much. I'll say it, I think he beats everyone. I think this is a special fighter that needs to be tested against the best in the world, and that's our job now. Activity is key.
The readiness of Ennis for Crawford isn't a simple yes or no. Certainly, with 32 professional fights under his belt, and now at a seasoned 27 years old, he appears prepared. Yet, beyond boxing circles, Ennis remains somewhat of an enigma. Despite his undeniable talent, a matchup with Crawford might not generate the same buzz as Crawford's 2023 clash with Errol Spence. Unlike that natural, long-standing rivalry, Crawford versus Ennis feels more hastily assembled, perhaps driven more by necessity than by genuine anticipation. Crawford, at 35, can't afford to be selective or wait indefinitely. Having spent much of his career in relative obscurity, he understands the urgency of securing defining victories now. Ennis, as a potential opponent, could undoubtedly contribute to that pursuit. Ennis demonstrates undeniable skill, evident in his decisive victory over Avanesyan tonight with a stunning left to the jaw while retreating. This shot not only showcased his his quality, but also highlighted his killer instinct and ability to finish. Traits shared with Crawford, who displayed similar prowess against Spence last year. Both fighters captivate audiences not just with their skill, but with their ability to end fights decisively, contrasting with technicians whose dominance often lacks flair. Despite occasionally taking more shots than preferred, as Ennis did tonight against Avanesyan, such moments only fueled their opponent's false confidence before delivering the telling blow. Crawford, too, understands the psychological warfare of boxing, dismantling opponents both physically and mentally throughout a bout, all while ensuring the spectacle remains captivating. Back in April, promoter Eddie Hearn said this of Crawford versus Ennis: "I rate Terence Crawford, but we're ready to roll the dice, baby, and we believe we've got the A side." That's not strictly true, of course, for there is only one A side in that fight, as if such a thing matters. But Hearn did at least make slightly more sense in the lead up to Ennis versus Avanesyan when saying this: "Terence Crawford versus Jaron Boots Ennis is the best fight in boxing, unquestionable." While the debate over its significance persists, few matchups at 154 pounds could rival Crawford versus Ennis from a technical perspective. The potential for bigger, more thrilling fights in the sport remains, but this bout stands out. Whether it ignites excitement before and during the event is uncertain, yet such doubts seem trivial. If Turkey Alalshikh, the ubiquitous promoter, pushes for this clash, expect it sooner rather than later. After the bout, Bud seemed notably tuned in, swiftly turning to social media to emphasize what he perceives as a shift in the narrative surrounding Ava. Previously criticized for his defensive tactics, he now believes Boots is finally receiving due credit, even from his promoter Eddie Hearn, for defeating a truly world-class opponent. Crawford said, "World-class fighter now, hun. The double standards be crazy." Promoter Eddie Hearn swiftly responded to Terence Crawford's enigmatic social media comment. Hearn recounted his FaceTime conversation with His Excellency following Ennis's victory over Avanesyan, where they discussed the timing of the Crawford bout for Boots. According to Hearn, Boots instructed His Excellency to forward the contract for the Crawford fight. The Crawford-Boots fight, according to Matchroom promoter Hearn, is expected to take place in the first quarter of 2025. If His Excellency decides to greenlight the Crawford versus Ennis showdown following Terence's bout with WBA junior middleweight champion Israel Madrimov on August 3rd, it promises to be a colossal event. Hearn claims he doesn't believe Canelo Alvarez will face Crawford, but if it turns out to be the case, Terence will be let down since he had wanted that match. Reacting to Terence Crawford's comment on social media, Hearn stated that Crawford's remark was ridiculous, asserting that Boots is the best welterweight in the world and challenging anyone to name a better welterweight than Boots.
What is your response for Terence Crawford and him chiming in on saying that Boots, or alluding to the fact that Boots may not be a world-class fighter?
Well, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Boots is the best welterweight in the world. I mean, tell me a better welterweight than Boots Ennis. Impossible. There isn't one. So, he's the best welterweight in the world.
Crawford seemed to be alluding to Avanesyan's recent elevation to the status of a world-class fighter, possibly due to Hearn promoting him this week as a formidable challenger for Boots Ennis's IBF welterweight title defense. Hearn further mentioned that he had just finished a FaceTime call with His Excellency, who inquired whether they would arrange the Crawford vs. Ennis fight. Hearn recounted that Boots responded with, "Send the contract." He added that if Terence Crawford gets past Madrimov on August 3rd, he will have the opportunity to see if Boots is a world-class fighter. Hearn expressed his belief that if Canelo Alvarez doesn't fight Terence Crawford, which he doesn't think will happen, Boots Ennis will likely face Terence Crawford in the first quarter of 2025, provided he beats Madrimov.
Well, I mean, we just finished a FaceTime with His Excellency, who asked me, will we make the Crawford fight? And the answer Boots said to him, "Send a contract." So Terence Crawford, if he gets past Madrimov on August 3rd, will have the chance to see if Boots is a world-class fighter. And I think if Canelo Alvarez doesn't fight Terence Crawford, which I don't think he will, I believe you're going to see Boots Ennis against Crawford if he beats Madrimov in 2025.
Moreover, Eddie Hearn suggests that Jaron Ennis showcased his skills against David Avanesyan on Saturday, focusing on his own performance rather than attempting to surpass Terence Crawford's record-breaking knockout from 2 years ago. Ennis aimed to outpace Crawford's previous performance against Avanesyan. Ultimately, Ennis achieved his goal by halting the match in the 5th round, successfully defending his IBF welterweight championship at Philadelphia's Wells Fargo Center. On December 10, 2022, Crawford stopped Avanesyan with 6 rounds, and he achieved it while wearing blowout gloves. I think think it was the way that he did it. Bear in mind that he'd been out for a year, said Eddie Hearn to the media. In the ring against Avanesyan, Boots Ennis found himself absorbing more hits than usual, willingly engaging in close quarters combat favored by the challenger. Hearn continued, with all due respect to Avanesyan, he really played with him. He didn't let himself get hit, but he had no regard for what was coming back. He was trying to have fun in there. He was trying to get him out of there. Rather than play to his strengths, Ennis allowed Avanesyan to dictate the fight's tempo, opting for an inside battle throughout the full 5 rounds. Despite this concession, Ennis demonstrated his superiority, emerging victorious in the end. Hearn said he was trying to be aggressive, but also he'd been out of the ring for a year. I think he felt that his performance was quite average, Boots. I said, if that was an average performance, you just destroyed Avanesyan. It was so one-sided. I know Avanesyan was trying. He landed a few bits and pieces. Avanesyan hit Ennis with a number of strong blows that would have easily knocked out many fighters with a weaker chin. Ennis appeared to have been through a lot as his lips were swollen from the blows he had taken during the fight. According to Hearn, the problem is away from Stylistic and away from Barrios. I want to see him tested because when you got someone like Shakur, fighting these guys is a little bit of a waste of time. Who wants to see 120, 108 3 times for a one-sided beatdown? The issue is that Boots Ennis won't be tested by Mario Barrios and Montes Staniones. If anything, because they aren't heavy punchers, they will be simpler for him to defeat than Avanesyan. Ennis will face his toughest challenge if he steps up to the 154-pound division. While Brian Norman Jr., the WBO welterweight champion, stands out as a potential rival for Boots Ennis, he remains tied to top rank, possibly earmarked for Teofimo Lopez, their prized fighter. So, okay to get active, but you've got to create the great fights so they can define their legacy, these great fights, said Hearn. Ennis needs to step up to the 154 and 160-pound divisions if he's serious about facing tougher opponents. Remaining in welterweight and aiming for undisputed titles against lackluster champions like Staniones and Barrios won't prove his true mettle. Jaron Ennis made a bold statement on Saturday evening, eyeing Terence Crawford as his next challenge. Crawford's willingness to grant 27-year-old Ennis's wish to face him next, or at any time in the future, doesn't seem hopeful. Crawford faces a significant challenge in his upcoming bout, with rumors swirling about a potential clash with Canelo Alvarez in 2025 to unify the super middleweight division. Boots Ennis made a savvy move by challenging Crawford, aiming for a headline-worthy moment. However, Crawford has his sights set on a lucrative showdown with Canelo Alvarez, prioritizing a big payday that he's not willing to jeopardize by stepping into the ring with Boots. Ennis didn't sail smoothly to victory tonight against Avanesyan. It wasn't a straightforward dismantling. Instead, Avanesyan posed significant challenges throughout. None of the rounds were clear-cut, with Ennis absorbing considerable hits. His relief was palpable when the doctor intervened to halt the fight.
JP Miranda with LatinoSports.com. Congratulations to you, Boots. Congratulations to Bozy. Did you find yourself at any point during the fight, or even just coming out to the ring, in awe of the amount of fans, the love, and the support that you were receiving?
Yeah, it was dope. It was a great experience coming out.
Hearn described Boots Ennis as the future of boxing, emphasizing his humility and noting that Ennis doesn't often speak up about himself. Hearn asserted his belief that Ennis can defeat anyone, calling him a special fighter who needs to be tested against the best in the world, which he stated is now their responsibility. Hearn emphasized that activity is crucial, expressing concern that too many great young fighters are too inactive. He stated the need to get Ennis back in the ring by October or November, and expressed a desire to return to Philadelphia, aiming to bring the biggest fights and unification bouts to the city. Hearn confidently predicted that Ennis would remain a prominent figure in boxing for a long time.
Activity is key. Too many of these great young fighters are too inactive. We must get him back out October, November. We'd love to return to Philadelphia. We've got to bring the bigger fights here, the unification fights. He's going to be around for a long time.
Make sure to check out some of our other videos on the screen if you enjoyed this one.